Don't respect or trust anyone who does these 15 things. Trust once lost is hard to regain. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the smallest actions reveal the deepest truths about someone's character? We often believe we know the people around us, especially those we respect and trust. But then, through subtle behaviors and small gestures, some reveal they might not deserve that trust at all. It's unsettling, isn't it? Thinking you're surrounded by people who support you, only to realize that hidden behaviors can cause real harm. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We'll uncover 15 specific behaviors that, if you see them in someone close, might need a second look. These aren't mere lapses or human flaws. They're recurring patterns that can signal something deeper and potentially damaging. By the end of this video, you'll gain clarity on who truly deserves your trust and respect, equipping yourself to make more intentional choices about who should be in your life. So, get ready. What we're about to reveal might surprise you more than you expect. 1. Be careful with overly friendly people. Have you ever wondered why some people seem just a little too friendly, almost like they're forcing a connection? It's wise to approach individuals like this with caution. Often, they're more focused on maintaining an image than on building genuine relationships. This exaggerated friendliness can sometimes be a mask, a way to disguise their true intentions and motivations. At a gathering, and there's always that one person who seems determined to win everyone over. Someone who goes out of their way to agree, compliment, and charm each person they meet. Yet, when the time comes for real support, they're nowhere to be found. This behavior isn't random. At heart, people who are overly friendly are often more invested in appearing trustworthy and likable than in actually being reliable friends or colleagues. They're not giving you their true selves, but rather a performance designed to make you think they're trustworthy, loyal, and reliable, qualities we instinctively respect. But their friendliness is frequently a front. They're playing a role, crafting an impression, rather than sincerely investing in you or the people around them. They might seek constant approval, going so far as to avoid any firm stance on important matters, simply because their priority is maintaining this friendly image rather than standing by any solid values. This can leave you in the lurch when critical decisions or difficult situations arise. You're working on a project and need a teammate to make a decisive call, but instead of acting, they hesitate, trying to appease every viewpoint without really contributing a solid opinion. The project falters because of their inability to stand firm when it matters. Their indecisiveness compromises the outcome and highlights their lack of authenticity, making you question the trust you once placed in them. And more than that, this superficial friendliness can even be a tactic to manipulate perceptions. By acting overly warm and approachable, some people aim to quickly build trust, only to leverage it for personal gain later. This over-friendliness can also impact their integrity in more significant ways. They often prioritize keeping up their charming facade over expressing genuine opinions or standing up for what's right. They'll bend their views, align themselves with the dominant voice in the room, and avoid conflict at all costs because, to them, conflict threatens the friendly image they've worked so hard to create. It may sound harmless initially, but in a moment of need, when you need real feedback, a genuine opinion, or unwavering support, they'll prioritize maintaining the peace or blending in with the crowd over offering you authentic advice or standing by your side. And if you confront them, they might even twist the conversation, suggesting you misunderstood them or that they were simply trying to keep everyone happy, leaving you feeling more confused or worse, doubting your perceptions. This behavior highlights an important lesson. Friendliness, on its own, doesn't equal trustworthiness or respect. Authentic friendships are built on mutual investment, on showing up when it matters, not just for appearances but with genuine concern and commitment. True friends or colleagues will stand by you even if it means going against the grain. So the next time you're faced with someone who's eager to be everyone's friend, pay attention. Are they willing to be real with you? Are they invested in the relationship, or just in being seen as someone everyone likes? Genuine people won't manipulate perceptions to gain a superficial trust. They'll be transparent, even when it's uncomfortable, because they value authenticity over appearance. The key takeaway? Trust isn't something to give lightly or based on someone's charisma or eagerness to please. Look for consistency, for people who are there in challenging times as much as in easy ones, who offer real perspectives even if it disrupts harmony. The lesson here isn't to distrust friendliness altogether, but to recognize that true respect and trust are earned, not freely given to someone who only appears to care. When you focus on building relationships with those who value honesty and integrity, you cultivate a circle of trust that's unshakable, based not on the facade of friendliness, but on the foundation of respect and sincerity. 2. Beware of manipulators. A manipulator is one of the most treacherous characters you can encounter in life. These individuals have a rare talent for reading people, detecting others' vulnerabilities, and using them as tools for personal gain. At first, they may seem like the most caring, supportive person in the world, showering you with attention and making you feel uniquely valued. But this kindness has a hidden cost. Once you've placed your trust in them, they'll twist it to their advantage, sometimes in ways so subtle that you won't even realize you've been used until much later. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor, reminding us that people driven by self-interest often conceal their motives behind a mask of empathy or generosity. Manipulators are masters of disguise. They often appear as good listeners, giving thoughtful advice or lending an ear to your troubles. However, they are not truly listening to understand or support you. Instead, they're gathering information, stockpiling details about your insecurities, your hopes, and your fears, all with the intent of using it against you. Have you ever noticed how someone may keep resurfacing personal stories you shared in confidence, subtly spinning them to influence your decisions or emotions? This isn't accidental. It's a well-worn strategy of manipulation. These individuals know how to be subtle, often cloaking their actions in just enough genuine warmth to make you doubt your instincts. Have you ever second-guessed yourself after realizing someone might be using your words against you, only to brush it off because they seemed so friendly? Manipulators rely on this doubt, knowing it often buys them even more access to your life. To maintain control, manipulators use a variety of tactics that often leave you feeling emotionally drained and questioning your own perceptions. They might guilt-trip you or use emotional blackmail, framing their needs in such a way that you feel selfish or insensitive for not complying. Think about the friend who constantly reminds you of everything they've done for you, hinting that you owe them support in return, even when their requests start to feel unreasonable. In a family member who always brings up past grievances, casting themselves as the victim to get you to bend to their wishes. This type of emotional manipulation can be exhausting and demoralizing, eroding your sense of self-worth over time. If you're not careful, you may start to lose sight of what you truly want and begin acting out of guilt, anxiety, or obligation instead of genuine care. A key characteristic of manipulators is their adaptability. They shift behaviors depending on whom they're dealing with. Around those they want to impress, manipulators are often charming, attentive, and full of compliments. Yet, when there's no benefit to be gained, their warmth turns to indifference, leaving you confused and wondering if you did something wrong. This inconsistency is one of the clearest signs of manipulation. True friends and genuine people remain consistent in their interactions, treating you with respect regardless of circumstance. Have you ever dealt with a coworker who was friendly when they needed a favor, but became distant as soon as their need was fulfilled? This is a classic tactic, and it's a reminder that authentic relationships are not transactional. Seneca once advised, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." Manipulators are the opposite of this ideal. They drain rather than uplift. Instead of encouraging growth, they keep you tethered, subtly undermining your confidence so you'll continue to rely on them. Manipulators often maintain this control by keeping you uncertain, giving just enough affection or support to make you feel valued but withholding enough to make you crave their approval. Reflect on this. Are you investing time and energy into someone who consistently leaves you feeling uncertain or uneasy? A healthy relationship doesn't leave you feeling insecure. It provides a foundation of trust and mutual respect. It's also important to remember that manipulators frequently exploit empathy, framing themselves as misunderstood or victimized to elicit sympathy and sway your decisions. They might even twist situations, making it seem as if you're being unreasonable for questioning their motives or setting boundaries, when you might confront a friend about their behavior, only to have them turn it around and accuse you of being overly harsh or unkind. This tactic, known as gaslighting, is a way for manipulators to avoid accountability, making you question your judgment and sometimes even your sanity. This deceptive behavior is a form of control that can chip away at your confidence and self-trust over time. One way is to set clear boundaries and pay close attention to how people react when you say no or assert your needs. Authentic friends will respect your limits. Manipulators will push back, trying to guilt or pressure you into compliance. Genuine relationships are built on a balance of giving and taking, while manipulative ones are skewed, often leaving you as the one giving far more. Epictetus reminds us, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. Understanding your worth and staying true to your principles makes it harder for manipulators to shake your sense of self. At the end of the day, trust and respect must be earned, not freely handed out to those who seem pleasant on the surface. Manipulators thrive on appearances. They craft a persona that's difficult to resist. But by practicing awareness and staying true to your own values, you can avoid the trap of misplaced trust. Are the people in your life genuinely supporting you, or are they subtly steering you toward their own ends? Trustworthy individuals will be there for you through both ups and downs, showing consistency, honesty, and care, while manipulators reveal themselves through inconsistency and a lack of genuine empathy. Don't let charisma or charm alone win you over. Watch how people treat you when they have nothing to gain, and remember that actions speak louder than words. If someone's behavior leaves you feeling confused, insecure, or exhausted, it may be time to reevaluate that relationship. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries, encourage your growth, and value you for who you are, not just for what you can provide. By focusing on authentic connections, you empower yourself to make choices that align with your true self and foster a life of respect, integrity, and genuine trust. This manager's lack of empathy doesn't just affect individual morale. It has a ripple effect, eroding trust, respect, and ultimately team performance. In these cases, empathy isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a foundational quality that separates supportive leaders from toxic ones. The absence of empathy in a leadership role creates a hostile and demotivating workplace where employees are likely to feel undervalued and resentful. The philosopher Seneca advised, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." When we encounter someone who fails to show empathy, it's evident they don't embrace this belief. They may respond to others' struggles with judgment rather than compassion, often seeing weakness where there is vulnerability. This attitude doesn't just impact personal relationships, but can have far-reaching effects professionally. If you work alongside someone who disregards others' needs or concerns, they might take actions that benefit themselves while disregarding the well-being of others. Imagine a colleague who doesn't hesitate to throw someone under the bus if it helps them advance. Such actions reveal a profound disregard for teamwork and mutual respect, which are the cornerstones of a healthy work environment. A person without empathy will rarely be a reliable partner, friend, or colleague, because they lack the capacity to genuinely value others beyond their utility. Furthermore, individuals lacking empathy often make others feel as if their feelings are excessive or unwarranted, adding a layer of shame to natural human emotions. When someone brushes off your concerns or treats your challenges as trivial, it leads to a sense of disconnection and even resentment. The wisdom of Epictetus teaches us that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Yet those without empathy seem to lack the willingness or ability to listen genuinely. Over time, This emotional distance can damage relationships beyond repair, as trust withers when we feel that our experiences and emotions don't matter. This cold detachment makes empathy essential not only for healthy relationships, but also for a balanced and fulfilling life. In the workplace, empathy distinguishes supportive leaders from those who drive teams solely for productivity. An empathetic leader recognizes the human side of business, understanding that people perform best when they feel respected and supported. A leader who imposes impossible deadlines or fails to recognize the personal challenges of their team members sends a clear message. Results matter more than people. In environments like this, trust and morale plummet, productivity suffers, and turnover rates increase. This lack of empathy ultimately harms the entire organization. On the contrary, leaders who take the time to understand and support their team create a positive atmosphere where employees feel valued, respected, and motivated to contribute meaningfully. In our personal lives, empathy is equally crucial. Without it, relationships become transactional, based only on what each person can gain. A friend who lacks empathy might disregard your hardships, leaving you feeling alone and unsupported in times of need. Over time, you may begin to wonder if they truly care for you or simply enjoy your company when it suits them. 3. Lack of empathy. A lack of empathy is one of the most alarming red flags in any relationship, personal or professional, and should not be taken lightly. Empathy is what allows us to connect with others, to step into their shoes, and to recognize and value their feelings. Without it, a person may go through life causing harm without ever feeling remorse or understanding the impact of their actions on others. This is akin to what the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius pointed out when he said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." A person who lacks empathy reveals a closed-off inward focus that prevents any genuine connection with others' experiences. You may have encountered someone who, when faced with another's pain or struggle, shows only indifference or even downplays it, leaving the suffering party feeling invalidated and alone. This lack of understanding reflects an emotional wall that shields them from the vulnerabilities of those around them, creating an environment where true trust is impossible. In relationships with such individuals, you often end up feeling like your feelings are dismissed or ignored, which over time builds frustration, isolation, and mistrust. How it feels when you approach someone in a time of need, perhaps seeking a listening ear or a comforting word, only to be met with cold indifference or, worse, outright dismissal. It's as if your emotions and needs are irrelevant. This reaction isn't just hurtful. It's a clear signal that this person is unwilling or unable to offer the kind of support that meaningful relationships demand. This detachment becomes even more troubling when you realize they may prioritize only what benefits them, with no regard for the impact on others. Picture a scenario at work where your manager is indifferent to the workload or deadlines, brushing aside any concerns as mere complaints. Do the people in your life show up for you during tough times, or do they disappear when things get uncomfortable? True friends demonstrate empathy by being present not just in moments of joy but in times of struggle as well. Seneca's words, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future," remind us that relationships rooted in empathy and mutual care are those that foster real happiness and fulfillment. Empathy isn't just a desirable trait. It's essential for building trust, respect, and meaningful relationships. Whether in personal or professional settings, the absence of empathy signals a lack of genuine connection and often leads to environments filled with suspicion, resentment, and isolation. When we choose to surround ourselves with people who value and demonstrate empathy, we invest in a life of richer, more authentic connections. Empathy allows us to feel seen, understood, and supported, fostering resilience and trust. In a world often focused on individual gain, empathy is a reminder of our shared humanity and the importance of kindness. Remember, respect those who respect others' emotions, and place your trust in those who truly value connection over convenience. 4. Constant negativity. Constant negativity is like a dark cloud that hovers over everything, draining energy and casting a shadow over your well-being and ambitions. People who always see the glass as half empty can sap your motivation and affect your peace of mind. These individuals have a way of focusing on the negative side of any situation, no matter how small, which often leaves those around them feeling equally down. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts," reminding us that our outlook shapes our experience of the world. Yet those who carry a consistently negative attitude seem to ignore this wisdom, spreading an emotional heaviness that can become contagious. Think of the colleague who's quick to find a flaw in every idea, or the friend who shoots down plans before they even begin, always highlighting what could go wrong. Working or spending time with someone like this is not only frustrating, it can completely deflate your creativity and motivation, turning the atmosphere stifling rather than inspiring. You might find yourself questioning your own positive ideas or hesitating to bring up new ones, knowing they'll likely be met with skepticism. A workplace scenario where a team member consistently points out problems in every proposed solution. They're quick to criticize every suggestion, seeing obstacles instead of opportunities. In these situations, a single person's constant pessimism can bring down the energy of an entire team, making it difficult for anyone to stay motivated or feel valued. Negativity, especially when unchecked, can breed a toxic environment that impacts everyone, slowly chipping away at morale and productivity. Over time, you may notice the team's enthusiasm dwindling, innovative ideas stalling, and an atmosphere of discouragement settling in. In personal relationships, this constant stream of negativity can be just as harmful. When a friend or family member always reacts with a "yes, but" to every suggestion, they're not just resisting change, they're often closing themselves off to growth and deeper connection. This mindset of perpetual doubt can make you feel like you're walking on eggshells, hesitating to share joy or hope for fear that they'll squash it with another realistic outlook. The effects of such negativity often extend beyond words. They create an invisible weight that hinders progress and stalls potential. When you're surrounded by people who see only the downsides, you may start to adopt that same attitude, finding faults and limitations in places where you once saw possibilities. As the Stoics taught, perspective is everything, and dwelling on the negative blinds us to the opportunities right in front of us. Being around a negative person not only feels draining, it can also lead to a sense of discouragement that affects everyone involved. In group settings, like a work team, one member's negativity can be like a virus, spreading from one person to the next, gradually dampening the collective spirit and hindering progress. And unlike a physical ailment, this negativity often goes unaddressed because it hides under the guise of realism or prudence. Yet, there's a fine line between realism and cynicism, and those who constantly default to the latter create more obstacles than they claim to foresee. Constantly negative people also tend to resist change, clinging to complaints as if they were part of their identity. For them, any attempt at improvement or a new approach is met with skepticism or outright rejection. This reluctance not only holds them back, but also stifles those around them, making it incredibly difficult to move forward. Have you ever tried to share an exciting new idea with a friend who instantly responds with all the reasons it won't work? This response isn't just discouraging, it's a subtle but powerful form of resistance to anything that challenges the status quo. By staying in a mindset of doubt and complaint, they limit not only their growth but also risk stagnating their relationships, creating a cycle of frustration and unmet potential. In the end, it's essential to recognize when someone's negativity is affecting your own outlook and energy. As Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The way we handle negativity around us can make a significant difference in our lives. While it's natural to have occasional doubts, constant pessimism is a barrier to happiness, progress, and meaningful connection. So, what can you do when faced with someone who always sees the negative? Start by setting boundaries and protecting your own optimism. Remind yourself that their view of the world doesn't have to define yours. Seek out people who uplift, inspire, and challenge you to see the potential in every situation, rather than those who always point to what could go wrong. Life is too short to be weighed down by those who refuse to see its beauty and potential. Choose to engage with people who see challenges as opportunities, who focus on solutions rather than problems, and who encourage growth rather than resist it. Embracing positivity doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing to focus on what you can change and to view setbacks as steps toward progress rather than as dead ends. As you build a network of supportive, open-minded individuals, you'll find that your own resilience and optimism grow, allowing you to lead a life that's not only more fulfilling, but also resilient in the face of adversity. Surrounding yourself with such people helps you foster an environment where growth and positivity thrive, making it clear that respect and trust are earned by those who not only see life's challenges, but also its boundless possibilities. If you've made it this far, you're a guardian of trust and integrity. Drop a comment saying, "I value true loyalty," to show you're committed to recognizing and avoiding toxic behaviors. Stick around, there's more wisdom to come. 5. Perpetual victimhood. Perpetual victimhood is an emotional trap that some people fall into, creating a cycle of blame and helplessness that can deeply affect those around them. These individuals repeatedly cast themselves as the victim in every situation, using their perceived suffering as a shield to manipulate others and to dodge accountability for their actions. They always seem to have a reason or excuse for why things go wrong, yet they rarely take a step back to recognize their own role in the circumstances. Think of someone in your life who's always blaming their boss for unfair treatment or labeling their colleagues as incompetent, never once acknowledging that perhaps their own lack of effort or mistakes might be part of the problem. This self-imposed victimhood isn't just harmful to them, it can be incredibly draining and frustrating for those who have to constantly interact with them. Perpetual victimhood sets up an environment where others feel compelled to carry the burden of the victim's happiness, leading to significant emotional strain. Have you ever had a friend who regularly comes to you with complaints, venting about life's injustices, yet when you need support, they're nowhere to be found? Over time, these one-sided relationships become exhausting. You may realize you're always the one providing support, lending an ear and offering solutions without receiving anything in return. In the long run, such a dynamic can lead to resentment, as you recognize that this person isn't interested in changing their circumstances, but rather in continuously leaning on you. Marcus Aurelius's wisdom shines here. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Those caught in a cycle of victimhood refuse to acknowledge this truth, instead attributing all their troubles to external sources. What makes perpetual victimhood particularly toxic is that it often serves as a form of emotional manipulation. By constantly portraying themselves as the underdog or the oppressed, these individuals garner sympathy, attention, and support from those around them, reinforcing their behavior. Think about that family member who's always lamenting how difficult their life is, subtly expecting others to shoulder their responsibilities or take action on their behalf. By repeatedly framing themselves as incapable or oppressed, they can make you feel obligated to help them, even at the cost of your own well-being. Seneca warned against this when he said, "The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach." A perpetual victim, however, clings to the belief that life is against them, effectively denying their own capacity to improve their circumstances and, in doing so, ensuring they remain dependent on the help of others. In modern life, this type of behavior often shows up as a refusal to accept responsibility for one's own actions, which ultimately prevents personal growth. For instance, if someone always blames their lack of career progress on a biased supervisor or a toxic work environment without ever reflecting on their own performance, they're choosing to stay stuck rather than taking steps to improve. This refusal to look inward becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, where they continue to experience the same issues without making any effort to change. Perpetual victimhood acts as a shield from accountability, and as a result, these individuals rarely grow, mature, or develop resilience. In turn, those around them may begin to feel manipulated, drained, or even resentful, as they're constantly expected to provide sympathy and support without seeing any real change in the victim's behavior. For anyone in a relationship, whether personal or professional, with someone who practices perpetual victimhood, it's essential to set clear boundaries to protect your emotional health. Ask yourself, how often do you find yourself sacrificing your time, energy, and well-being to help this person, only to see the same complaints and issues resurface time and time again? Healthy relationships are built on mutual support and growth, where each person takes responsibility for their own lives. In contrast, relationships with perpetual victims are often one-sided, with the victim continually expecting emotional or practical help, but giving very little in return. It can feel as though you're carrying both your own load and theirs, which quickly becomes unsustainable and unfair. As Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Holding on to this principle, we can recognize that we are not responsible for others' happiness or for fixing their issues, especially if they are not actively seeking to improve their situation themselves. It's worth remembering that being supportive doesn't mean enabling someone's negative patterns. True support involves encouraging others to recognize their own power to change their lives. Constantly rescuing someone who doesn't want to take responsibility simply fuels their victim mentality and holds them back from personal growth. Real support empowers others, helping them to stand on their own, while enabling only deepens their dependency. If you're dealing with someone who constantly expects you to solve their problems without making any effort themselves, it might be time to reassess the dynamic. Healthy boundaries are necessary to protect your own energy, ensuring that your kindness isn't exploited, but rather leads to genuine, constructive support. Respect and trust should be reserved for those who are willing to take responsibility for their actions and their lives. Everyone faces challenges, but true strength lies in facing those difficulties without perpetually casting oneself as a helpless victim. Stoic wisdom reminds us that while we may not control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. If you find yourself surrounded by someone who clings to victimhood, remember that your support should lead to growth, not stagnation. Letting go of relationships rooted in perpetual victimhood is not only beneficial for your well-being, but can also be the wake-up call they need to take ownership of their lives. Surround yourself with people who embrace responsibility, resilience, and self-growth, and watch how your own strength and positivity flourish in their presence. 6. Irritating presence. Perpetual victimhood is an emotional trap that some people fall into, creating a cycle of blame and helplessness that can deeply affect those around them. These individuals repeatedly cast themselves as the victim in every situation, using their perceived suffering as a shield to manipulate others and to dodge accountability for their actions. They always seem to have a reason or excuse for why things go wrong, yet they rarely take a step back to recognize their own role in the circumstances. Think of someone in your life who's always blaming their boss for unfair treatment, or labeling their colleagues as incompetent, never once acknowledging that perhaps their own lack of effort or mistakes might be part of the problem. This self-imposed victimhood isn't just harmful to them, it can be incredibly draining and frustrating for those who have to constantly interact with them. Perpetual victimhood sets up an environment where others feel compelled to carry the burden of the victim's happiness, leading to significant emotional strain. Have you ever had a friend who regularly comes to you with complaints, venting about life's injustices, yet when you need support, they're nowhere to be found? Over time, these one-sided relationships become exhausting. You may realize you're always the one providing support, lending an ear, and offering solutions, without receiving anything in return. In the long run, such a dynamic can lead to resentment, as you recognize that this person isn't interested in changing their circumstances, but rather in continuously leaning on you. What makes perpetual victimhood particularly toxic is that it often serves as a form of emotional manipulation. By constantly portraying themselves as the underdog or the oppressed, these individuals garner sympathy, attention, and support from those around them, reinforcing their behavior. Think about that family member who's always lamenting how difficult their life is, subtly expecting others to shoulder their responsibilities or take action on their behalf. By repeatedly framing themselves as incapable or oppressed, they can make you feel obligated to help them, even at the cost of your own well-being. Seneca warned against this when he said, "The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach." A perpetual victim, however, clings to the belief that life is against them, effectively denying their own capacity to improve their circumstances, and in doing so, ensuring they remain dependent on the help of others. In modern life, this type of behavior often shows up as a refusal to accept responsibility for one's own actions, which ultimately prevents personal growth. For instance, if someone always blames their lack of career progress on a biased supervisor or a toxic work environment, without ever reflecting on their own performance, they're choosing to stay stuck rather than taking steps to improve. This refusal to look inward becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, where they continue to experience the same issues without making any effort to change. Perpetual victimhood acts as a shield from accountability, and as a result, these individuals rarely grow, mature, or develop resilience. In turn, those around them may begin to feel manipulated, drained, or even resentful, as they're constantly expected to provide sympathy and support without seeing any real change in the victim's behavior. For anyone in a relationship, whether personal or professional, with someone who practices perpetual victimhood, it's essential to set clear boundaries to protect your emotional health. Ask yourself, how often do you find yourself sacrificing your time, energy, and well-being to help this person, only to see the same complaints and issues resurface time and time again? Healthy relationships are built on mutual support and growth, where each person takes responsibility for their own lives. In contrast, relationships with perpetual victims are often one-sided, with the victim continually expecting emotional or practical help, but giving very little in return. It can feel as though you're carrying both your own load and theirs, which quickly becomes unsustainable and unfair. As Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Holding on to this principle, we can recognize that we are not responsible for others' happiness or for fixing their issues, especially if they are not actively seeking to improve their situation themselves. It's worth remembering that being supportive doesn't mean enabling someone's negative patterns. True support involves encouraging others to recognize their own power to change their lives. Constantly rescuing someone who doesn't want to take responsibility simply fuels their victim mentality and holds them back from personal growth. If you're dealing with someone who constantly expects you to solve their problems without making any effort themselves, it might be time to reassess the dynamic. Healthy boundaries are necessary to protect your own energy, ensuring that your kindness isn't exploited, but rather leads to genuine, constructive support. Respect and trust should be reserved for those who are willing to take responsibility for their actions and their lives. Everyone faces challenges, but true strength lies in facing those difficulties without perpetually casting oneself as a helpless victim. Stoic wisdom reminds us that while we may not control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. If you find yourself surrounded by someone who clings to victimhood, remember that your support should lead to growth, not stagnation. Letting go of relationships rooted in perpetual victimhood is not only beneficial for your well-being, but can also be the wake-up call they need to take ownership of their lives. Surround yourself with people who embrace responsibility, resilience, and self-growth, and watch how your own strength and positivity flourish in their presence. 7. Two-faced behavior. Two-faced behavior is one of the clearest indicators that someone cannot be trusted. This kind of person may seem friendly and charming when they are with you, but the moment you're out of earshot, they're quick to criticize or speak ill of you without remorse. The insidiousness of such hypocrisy lies in its ability to foster a false sense of security, making you believe you have an ally, only to realize that this person could betray you at any given moment. A colleague who praises you in team meetings but undermines your work behind your back. This isn't just dishonest, it's toxic, with the potential to harm your relationships and tarnish your reputation. Two-faced behavior doesn't stop at the workplace. It can easily seep into personal relationships as well. You might have a friend who is warm and supportive when it's just the two of you, but turns distant or dismissive of your achievements when you're in a group setting. This inconsistency leaves you wondering whether the friendship was ever genuine or merely a series of performances tailored to different audiences. People who engage in two-faced behavior often do so with an ulterior motive. It's a calculated move designed to manipulate others, shaping how they are perceived by displaying different personas to different people. They might present themselves as a victim to garner sympathy from some, while showcasing confidence and resilience to others, all depending on what will serve their interests best at that moment. This chameleon-like adaptability enables them to twist narratives, ensuring that they control how others view them. The most troubling part? These shifting masks draw you into a relationship woven from deceit, where trust is continuously eroded. How someone might confide in you about their struggles, painting a picture of camaraderie, only to later weaponize those confessions when speaking to others, spinning tales that cast themselves as the hero or you as the villain. This manipulative behavior often leaves you second-guessing yourself and questioning the nature of your interactions. I recall a story shared by a close friend, Alex, who experienced this firsthand at his former job. He worked tirelessly, earning commendations from his supervisor who, to his face, praised his dedication and promised him a future promotion. But Alex soon learned from coworkers that the same supervisor mocked his efforts in private and took credit for his ideas during executive meetings. The duplicity crushed his spirit, leaving him wondering why he hadn't seen through the charm sooner. This experience serves as a wake-up call for anyone who has found themselves lured by superficial niceties only to face betrayal later. Recognizing two-faced behavior and its effects is crucial. When someone consistently behaves this way, it's essential to reassess the value they add to your life. Maintaining relationships with such people can drain your emotional energy, as you find yourself constantly questioning their true intentions. Instead of getting caught in their web, be mindful of their actions and trust patterns rather than words alone. Notice who celebrates your successes when no one else is looking and who genuinely supports you without expecting anything in return. It's those who remain consistent, who are authentic regardless of the audience, that are worth your trust and respect. Ultimately, you deserve relationships built on honesty, integrity, and mutual respect. If someone's behavior consistently contradicts their words, take it as a sign to distance yourself. Who in my life shows me their true face no matter the situation? Remember that relationships rooted in honesty provide the foundation for true connection and growth, while those mired in duplicity only breed doubt and frustration. Surround yourself with people who uplift you in your absence as well as in your presence, and choose wisely whom you allow into your circle. The lesson is clear. Trust actions over promises and recognize that authenticity isn't something that can be masked or performed. It's a continuous, unwavering commitment. 8. Debate-provokers. Debate-provokers are those individuals who consistently seek to stir up arguments over controversial topics at the most inopportune times. They aren't interested in meaningful dialogue or understanding different perspectives. Their main objective is to create conflict and draw attention to themselves. These individuals thrive on chaos, using contentious topics as tools to disrupt peace and direct the spotlight to their opinions. Think about a calm family gathering. Everyone is enjoying their time when suddenly someone makes an inflammatory remark about politics or religion, fully aware that it will ignite an argument. This behavior doesn't just create unnecessary tension. It fractures relationships and breeds resentment. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Yet, dealing with these provocateurs tests even the most patient hearts, as their actions seem designed to elicit a negative reaction. In professional settings, These debate provokers pose an even greater risk. A colleague who constantly steers discussions toward sensitive or divisive topics can derail productive conversations, distracting the team from their shared goals. Imagine being in the middle of a crucial meeting, where focus is key, only for someone to insert a controversial statement out of the blue to spark reactions. Not only does this waste valuable time, but it also diminishes team cohesion and the efficiency of decision-making. Over time, this type of behavior chips away at trust and the cooperative spirit necessary for success. Marcus Aurelius, known for his reflections and meditations, urged, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." Yet provocateurs are less interested in seeking truth than in showcasing their superiority and reveling in the disorder they create. What motivates such behavior? At the heart of it is often an inflated ego and a relentless need to feel intellectually superior. Debate provokers believe their opinions are paramount and must be heard, no matter the discomfort it causes others. They may not even consider whether their comments could be hurtful or disruptive. What matters most is asserting their dominance in the conversation. This self-centered approach distances them from others and can foster an atmosphere where people avoid engaging with them entirely. A team member or friend who consistently instigates arguments instead of seeking genuine dialogue soon finds themselves isolated, as others become reluctant to interact with them. This raises a crucial question: is being right at any cost worth the loneliness that follows? I once heard a story from a friend about a coworker named Daniel, who epitomized the debate provoker archetype. During every team discussion, Daniel would steer the conversation into controversial waters, be it politics, social issues, or divisive industry opinions. What started as minor distractions escalated into full-blown debates that left the room divided and progress stalled. Initially, some colleagues engaged, believing they could reason with him. But soon they realized that Daniel's goal was not to exchange ideas but to dominate the conversation. As tensions grew, people became wary of speaking up around him, fearing their words would become the next topic of debate. The workplace environment suffered as a result, and Daniel found himself on the fringes, avoided by the very peers whose respect he craved. This story begs the question: is winning every argument worth losing the trust and camaraderie of those around you? Provoking debates can have deep personal and professional consequences, as people start to view the provocateur not as someone capable of productive dialogue, but as a source of stress and division. How do you deal with someone like this? One Stoic lesson that rings true here is to focus on your own response. Seneca advised, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Craving attention through disruption leaves one poorer in relationships and peace of mind. Instead of allowing yourself to be drawn into their games, keep your reactions measured and don't fuel their need for conflict. Maintain your composure, stick to the topic at hand, and deflect attempts to escalate tension. Trust and respect those who value genuine conversation and aim to build connections, not those who seek only to ignite conflict for their own gain. Life is full of challenges that require real discourse and meaningful exchanges to overcome. Surround yourself with people who elevate discussions and aim to understand others, not just to be right. The strongest relationships are founded on open, supportive dialogue, not battles where only one voice emerges dominant. You deserve to be in spaces where you can speak, listen, and grow without fear of being baited into unnecessary disputes. 9. Frequent complaints. Frequent complainers tend to create an environment steeped in negativity, making it hard for anyone around them to maintain a positive outlook. These individuals seem to find a problem in every situation, casting a shadow that stretches over even the brightest days. Their pessimistic nature can be as contagious as it is draining. Imagine having a friend who, every time you meet, fills the conversation with a chorus of woes. The job is unbearable. Life is unfair. Nothing ever goes their way. While at first you might try to empathize or offer solutions, Over time, this relentless cloud of complaints becomes exhausting. It's as if the world itself shrinks to fit the narrow, dim lens through which they view it. As Marcus Aurelius advised in Meditations, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This wisdom is lost on the chronic complainer, whose focus is fixed outward, always on what's wrong and never on what can be controlled or improved. It's important to understand that habitual complainers often don't seek solutions. They crave validation. This pattern of venting without action creates a cycle where they attract more reasons to feel dissatisfied and alienated. Picture a colleague who is perpetually lamenting their heavy workload but never takes steps to manage it better, request help, or prioritize tasks. Their complaints become self-fulfilling, sabotaging any opportunity for improvement and perpetuating their frustration. This creates a toxic loop that not only drags them down, but can also affect you, sapping your energy and optimism. The truth is, their constant focus on obstacles without seeking change turns them into their own worst enemy. As Seneca once said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality, but complainers live as if every imagined difficulty is already reality. Moreover, this kind of attitude doesn't just impact the complainer, it casts a wide net over anyone within earshot. In the workplace, this means productivity suffers as morale dips. A team member who continually gripes about problems without offering solutions disrupts cohesion and dampens the enthusiasm of others. It's like being in a meeting where one person's incessant negativity derails the agenda, shifting the energy from problem-solving to collective sighs of frustration. When someone constantly points out what's wrong, they block the flow of constructive ideas and make progress feel impossible. Have you ever noticed how much harder it is to stay motivated when negativity fills the air? This echoes Epictetus's teaching. It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Yet the chronic complainer is trapped in their judgments, unable to see past them. In personal relationships, frequent complaining can have even more damaging effects. A partner who constantly finds fault or voices dissatisfaction can erode the bond of trust and affection over time. You might find yourself walking on eggshells, trying to avoid triggering the next wave of discontent. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy, as though no effort you make is enough to bring them happiness or peace. Over time, the emotional burden wears thin, and the relationship may start to break down, leading to emotional distance or even a complete split. It's essential to recognize when this cycle starts to affect your well-being. Are you investing your time and energy into someone who perpetually drains you without any sign of change or willingness to engage in solutions? One approach is to set boundaries while maintaining empathy. It's not about dismissing someone's struggles, but about encouraging constructive conversations. If you know someone who frequently complains, try steering the conversation toward solutions. This helps shift the focus from dwelling on the problem to considering potential actions. At the same time, be mindful of your limits. It's perfectly okay to step back when you feel overwhelmed by someone else's negativity. As the Stoics taught, protect your peace of mind by managing what you can control, your reactions and boundaries. In the end, it's vital to surround yourself with people who inspire and energize you, not those who pull you into their cycle of complaints. As you assess your circle, think about who lifts you up and who seems to pull you down. Are there friends or colleagues who find solutions and keep a positive perspective, even when faced with difficulties? Those are the ones worth investing your time in. Life is full of genuine challenges that require resilience and adaptability. Learning to manage complaints, both your own and those of others, can help you create an environment where growth and positivity are the norm. Surround yourself with those who understand that while not every situation is ideal, our response shapes our experience. As Marcus Aurelius wisely pointed out, dwell on the beauty of life, watch the stars, and see yourself running with them. Seek the company of those who remind you of this beauty, and be wary of those whose only gift is their endless list of grievances. 10. Exaggerated selfishness. Excessive selfishness can be the silent force that erodes the foundation of any relationship, whether personal or professional. When someone consistently prioritizes their own needs and desires over those of others, ignoring how their actions affect people around them, it reveals a stark lack of empathy and respect. This behavior isn't just about large, overt acts. It's often evident in the smaller, everyday choices that gradually chip away at trust. A coworker who always maneuvers to claim credit for team efforts, disregarding others' contributions, embodies this kind of selfishness, which inevitably sows seeds of resentment and distrust. Such actions tell everyone around them that they only see relationships as stepping stones for personal gain. The Roman philosopher Seneca wisely noted, "We should give as we would receive, cheerfully, quickly, and without hesitation." Yet, the self-centered individual lives by the opposite creed, taking without giving, benefiting without consideration. This kind of behavior is not confined to the workplace. It also creeps into friendships and personal relationships, where it can be even more damaging. Consider a friend who always insists on choosing activities that suit only their interests or who frequently asks for favors, but never reciprocates. It may seem minor at first, but over time, this relentless prioritization of their wants over yours sends a clear message: your needs don't matter. This imbalance becomes unsustainable, leading to a relationship that feels draining and one-sided. People who are extremely self-centered often justify their behavior by believing they inherently deserve more than others, which breeds arrogance and dismissiveness. They might act as if their opinions and desires hold more value, creating a toxic environment where others feel diminished. A manager who makes decisions solely based on their own career advancement, without considering the impact on their team, risks more than just employee dissatisfaction. They cultivate a high turnover rate and foster a workplace rife with tension. This ego-driven approach inevitably impacts the collective spirit, leaving employees disengaged and disillusioned. Think about it. How motivated would you feel working for someone who prioritizes themselves at every turn, disregarding the well-being of those who support them? As Marcus Aurelius once reflected, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." A self-centered person neglects this wisdom, choosing thoughts that center solely on themselves and thereby corrode the happiness of those around them. In more subtle forms, selfishness shows up in day-to-day interactions that, while seemingly trivial, accumulate into a damaging pattern. A friend who only calls when they need a favor, never just to check in, or a family member who expects help but isn't willing to lend a hand in return. These are the quieter signs of selfishness that speak volumes over time. Such behavior makes relationships feel transactional rather than authentic. Do you know someone who only seems present when it benefits them? Reflect on how that dynamic has impacted your perception of them. Over time, consistently prioritizing oneself above others not only isolates the selfish person, but also limits their potential for meaningful relationships and collaboration. The consequences of excessive selfishness aren't just immediate. They echo far into the future. While someone might temporarily gain by putting their own interests first, the long-term effects often include isolation and damaged reputations. A leader or friend who regularly exhibits selfish behavior will eventually find that people are less inclined to trust or support them. Even success achieved through self-serving methods tends to be fragile, as it lacks the strong, supportive network that helps sustain true growth and well-being. Can a person truly thrive if their victories come at the expense of others? As Stoic teachings remind us, living in harmony with others, cultivating respect, understanding, and mutual support forms the basis for lasting fulfillment. To protect yourself from the toxic influence of excessive selfishness, look for balance in your relationships. Seek out those who value reciprocity and understand that mutual respect is the bedrock of trust. Surround yourself with people who consider others' needs as readily as they consider their own, and aim to be that person yourself. This doesn't mean you should ignore your own needs, but rather approach relationships with a mindset of shared benefit. Remember, genuine connections are nurtured through empathy and giving, not by counting victories or clinging to an inflated sense of importance. As Seneca wisely put it, no one can live happily who has regard for himself alone and transforms everything into a question of his own utility. In life, the truly successful individuals are those who uplift others, create balanced dynamics, and build trust through their actions, not just their words. Surround yourself with these kinds of people and strive to be one, because a life shared in mutual support is far richer than one spent chasing selfish gains. 11. Inconstancy and unpredictability. Inconsistency and unpredictability are traits that can shake the foundations of any relationship. When people shift their behavior or opinions to suit their convenience without holding a consistent stance, they create an atmosphere of uncertainty and distrust for those around them. You know these types. They're the ones who might be supportive and enthusiastic one day, then cold and critical the next, without any clear reason. This kind of inconsistency is exhausting because it leaves you walking on eggshells, unsure of what version of the person you'll encounter. Think of a friend who today backs you wholeheartedly in your choices but turns around tomorrow to criticize you without cause. Such behavior signals a lack of reliability that wears down patience and trust. This inconsistency also surfaces in how they handle commitments. Working with someone who changes their mind frequently, whether it's a colleague or a project leader, can be a nightmare. Picture yourself investing time and energy into a project, only to find that their opinion or approach has flipped overnight. Not only does this disrupt progress, but it also generates stress and confusion, eroding trust and making it hard for anyone to rely on them. Have you ever been part of a team where the direction changed so often that you felt like you were running in circles? This kind of unpredictability doesn't just waste time. It chips away at morale and weakens group cohesion. In a professional environment, the consequences of such behavior are magnified. When a leader is inconsistent, making decisions on a whim or constantly revising plans without explanation, it leaves their team bewildered and unmotivated. This is not adaptability. It's chaos disguised as flexibility. Stoic wisdom reminds us that consistency and steadiness build trust. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials," highlighting that steadiness in character is refined through challenges, not erratic shifts. Leaders who fail to demonstrate consistency foster an unpredictable workplace, where employees may feel unsupported and uncertain about their roles. In such environments, valuable opportunities can slip away because decisions are made and revoked in a cycle that prevents meaningful progress. Moreover, these inconsistent individuals often rationalize their behavior by claiming they are simply adaptable or responsive to changing situations. But the truth is, there's a fine line between being adaptable and being erratic. True adaptability involves thoughtful adjustments that are communicated and understood by those involved. On the contrary, unpredictability without forethought or communication breeds distrust and confusion. Do you have a colleague or manager whose shifting opinions make every meeting feel like an uphill battle? You might find yourself second-guessing every step, unsure whether to stay committed or brace for yet another unexpected change. This level of inconstancy not only undermines confidence but sets a precedent for disorganized, inefficient work. Next, consider the example of a manager who constantly changes project priorities without a clear explanation. One day, the team is working full steam ahead on one initiative. The next, they're abruptly told to pivot to something else, leaving behind incomplete work and confused team members. This unpredictability can lead to a chaotic work environment where no one knows how to meet expectations, resulting in reduced productivity and a demoralized team. Have you ever worked under someone who couldn't seem to stick to their own plan? If so, you know the frustration of trying to hit a moving target. The key message here is that consistency matters more than we often realize. Whether in personal relationships or the workplace, trust is built on the foundation of predictable, reliable behavior. On the other hand, those who waver and shift without warning create nothing but anxiety and uncertainty. They may claim they're flexible, but their actions tell a different story, one that doesn't lead to growth or success. If you're in a professional context, seek clarity and confirm important details to safeguard against sudden changes. In personal relationships, decide whether the inconsistency is something you can tolerate or if it's wearing you down. Remember, stability isn't just a nice-to-have. It's essential for fostering meaningful, trusting relationships. As the Stoics teach, seek to be the person others can rely on, a steady presence in an unpredictable world. Surround yourself with people who value the same, because those who consistently stand by their principles and communicate openly will always be worth your trust. 12. Habitual dishonesty. Habitual dishonesty is a behavior that erodes trust in any relationship, whether personal or professional. When someone repeatedly resorts to lying, whether to avoid consequences or manipulate others, it creates an environment thick with uncertainty and mistrust that can be nearly impossible to mend. The trouble with chronic dishonesty is that it leaves you questioning every word that person says, unable to decipher what's genuine and what's fabricated. A friend who is always making excuses for not keeping commitments or who habitually distorts reality to suit their narrative, making things appear better or worse than they truly are. This kind of behavior forms a pattern of deception that chips away at the foundation of trust, and once that's gone, the relationship struggles to survive. As Epictetus wisely noted, lying is an ugly blot on a man, and it ever tells against him. The essence of this wisdom is that honesty is not just a virtue but the very fabric that holds human connections together. It's not just the grand, elaborate lies that cause damage. The smaller, seemingly insignificant ones can be just as harmful. A colleague who habitually hides important details or manipulates information to their advantage might seem harmless in the moment, but over time, these little falsehoods add up. They create a culture of suspicion where colleagues start second-guessing each other, and teamwork suffers. In a professional environment, dishonesty can have far-reaching consequences, leading to costly errors and misguided decisions based on incomplete or fabricated data. This not only jeopardizes the trust between individuals, but can derail entire projects and tarnish reputations. The ancient Stoics often preached that truth was paramount for a harmonious life. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." A simple yet profound reminder of the value of integrity. Dishonesty also has a manipulative edge that extends beyond the spoken lie. It can be used as a tool for emotional control, where one twists reality to alter others' perceptions or emotions. Consider someone who constantly portrays themselves as a victim, spinning stories or exaggerating situations to win sympathy and support. This form of manipulation may seem innocent at first but becomes insidious over time, eroding trust and perpetuating a toxic cycle of deceit. Have you ever felt manipulated by someone's constant portrayal of hardship, only to later discover that much of what they said was an exaggeration or fabrication? This behavior is not only unfair to those around them, but sets up a continuous loop of dishonesty that is difficult to break. Seneca's words ring true here. What is a good man but a teacher of bad ones? In this case, chronic dishonesty teaches those around it to distrust and to guard themselves, limiting genuine connections. Addressing habitual dishonesty requires a straightforward approach. It's important to confront such behavior directly, making it clear that honesty is essential for trust to exist. Establishing boundaries and being transparent about the non-negotiable value of truth can help, but it requires vigilance and consistency. Openly communicate that dishonesty, no matter how small, won't be tolerated. This might be difficult, especially if the dishonest person is someone close, but it's necessary for your well-being and for maintaining healthy relationships. Have you thought about what boundaries you might need to set with someone in your life who frequently distorts the truth? If you haven't, now might be the time to consider how this behavior has affected your own sense of trust and security. However, while confronting dishonesty is important, it's also crucial to be aware of other behaviors that can be just as damaging to relationships and your overall sense of peace. A holistic approach to trust and respect in any connection requires watching for these subtle signs and understanding that they can erode just as surely as the most blatant lie. Whether it's small, habitual dishonesty or larger deceptions, remember that truth is not just the cornerstone of trust, but the bridge to meaningful and lasting relationships. Trust yourself enough to insist on honesty from those around you and embody that same principle in your own life. Because as the Stoics taught us, living an honest life is not just for the benefit of others, but a path to inner strength and true freedom. 13. Lack of loyalty. The absence of loyalty is one of the most profound betrayals you can encounter in any relationship. When people break trust, whether by divulging secrets, switching sides during critical moments, or acting disloyally when their support is needed the most, it signals a lack of integrity that is hard to forgive or forget. Trust is delicate, and loyalty is its cornerstone. Placing your confidence in someone, only to learn they shared your personal or sensitive information with others, perhaps to harm you or simply due to carelessness. This betrayal isn't just a crack in the relationship, it can have serious repercussions, impacting your personal and professional life in ways that ripple far beyond the initial breach. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Loyalty is about embodying this principle, standing by people through truth and consistency. Loyalty forms a foundation of safety and mutual trust, allowing people to lean on one another and thrive together. When someone acts disloyally, it fractures that foundation, leaving behind vulnerability and a bitter sense of betrayal. Think about a friend who walks away when times get tough, or a colleague who sides with your competitors to secure their own gain. These acts of disloyalty don't just sting, they can be devastating, creating wounds that may never fully heal. Have you ever felt the sting of someone's betrayal and questioned why you ever trusted them in the first place? It's this emotional impact that shows why loyalty is not just a virtue, but an essential trait in any healthy relationship. As the Stoics remind us, our circle should be built on solid virtues, not shifting sands. Betrayal doesn't just hurt emotionally, it carries tangible consequences too. Broken trust can result in lost opportunities, damaged reputations, and disrupted plans. For instance, consider a business partner who backs out of a crucial agreement at the last minute because a better deal came along. This isn't just a breach of loyalty, it's a display of unprofessionalism that can ruin existing partnerships and close doors on future collaborations. When you experience such betrayals, it becomes clear that loyalty is more than a warm feeling. It's the backbone of dependability in every interaction. Without it, you're left questioning who you can count on, especially when stakes are high. Furthermore, a lack of loyalty often walks hand in hand with a lack of commitment and responsibility. Disloyal people act mainly for their benefit, disregarding the promises and obligations they've made. They might appear supportive when everything is smooth sailing, but when difficulties arise, their true colors show. In a work setting, someone who shifts blame or sidesteps commitments as soon as challenges emerge isn't just unreliable, they're a liability. This behavior creates an atmosphere where you constantly need to watch your back and second-guess others' intentions, fostering stress and mistrust. It's not just about spotting disloyalty, it's about protecting yourself from its effects. One way to safeguard your trust is by being selective with whom you share your vulnerabilities and by setting clear boundaries. The truth is, loyalty is something earned over time through consistent, supportive actions, not just verbal assurances. Think about the people in your life. Who has shown up for you, time and again, even when it was inconvenient or risky for them? These are the individuals worth keeping close. Seneca once said, "Every man prefers belief to the exercise of judgment," reminding us to be discerning in our trust. Loyalty shouldn't be freely given to those who haven't shown they deserve it. If you find yourself realizing that someone in your circle lacks loyalty, it's time to reevaluate. Does their presence bring value to your life, or do their actions leave you feeling vulnerable and let down? This reflection isn't just for protection, it's about nurturing relationships that contribute to your peace and strength. People who value loyalty contribute to an environment where trust flourishes and relationships grow deeper. On the other hand, those who repeatedly act in their self-interest, disregarding the bonds they share with others, undermine that environment. In the end, be mindful and proactive. Loyalty is the silent pact that strengthens connections. So, take stock, set boundaries, and hold fast to those who have proven that their loyalty is unwavering, because it is through them that you will find the support and trust needed to navigate life's uncertainties. 14. Arrogance and disdain. Arrogance and disdain are behaviors that don't just push people away. They signal a profound lack of respect for others and create an unhealthy environment. When someone carries themselves with an air of superiority, constantly underestimating and disregarding the opinions and emotions of those around them, it quickly becomes evident that they're not interested in connection or growth. This kind of attitude builds an invisible wall between the arrogant individual and everyone else, making effective communication and genuine collaboration nearly impossible. Think about the frustration of working alongside someone who always acts as if they're the smartest in the room, brushing off your ideas and making you feel small. This isn't just infuriating. It stifles learning and mutual growth, robbing everyone involved of the chance to build something better together. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once advised, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Arrogance blinds people to wisdom because they can't fathom learning from others. Disdain is arrogance in action, expressed through sharp comments and belittling looks that aim to reinforce this false sense of superiority. People who exhibit this behavior often do so to lift themselves up by tearing others down. In such interactions, any chance of genuine connection becomes strained, as the relationship pivots from mutual respect to a one-sided display of self-importance. These dynamics foster negativity and eventually lead to loneliness for the person who behaves this way, because few people are willing to endure such treatment indefinitely. Marcus Aurelius aptly put it, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury," a reminder that responding with arrogance or disdain only perpetuates the cycle. Instead, the answer lies in maintaining your dignity and choosing not to stoop to their level. This behavior can be especially destructive in leadership roles. A leader who treats their team with disdain, ignores their input, and downplays their achievements isn't just being unpleasant. They're actively damaging the morale and trust that fuel productivity. Such an environment inevitably becomes toxic, resulting in high turnover and a collective sense of dissatisfaction. Employees lose motivation when their efforts are brushed aside and their contributions are minimized. Have you ever worked under someone who made you feel invisible, no matter how much you contributed? Such leaders fail to understand that long-term success is built on collaboration and mutual respect. The irony is that the arrogant leader often limits their own potential by alienating those who could have been their strongest supporters and allies. Seneca's words resonate here. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Surrounding oneself with yes men or treating others as inferior will do the opposite, stagnate growth and isolate the person at the top. How can you handle arrogance and disdain when you encounter them? The first step is not to internalize their behavior. People who act superior do so from a place of insecurity, needing to mask their own doubts by belittling others. Keep your composure and remind yourself that their words or actions reflect more on them than on you. Address the behavior calmly if needed, pointing out how it affects communication and collaboration. Let's telling a colleague, "I value feedback, but constructive input helps everyone improve," can subtly encourage a more respectful dialogue. However, there comes a point when you must decide whether the relationship is worth preserving. Is the individual willing to change, or are they committed to their condescending ways? Protecting your peace means knowing when to distance yourself from those who refuse to grow. Surround yourself with people who build you up, not those who pull you down with arrogance or disdain. Be mindful of your own behavior too. Humility is the antidote to arrogance and the path to deeper connections. As the Stoics teach, Strength lies in recognizing your worth without diminishing others. Challenge yourself to appreciate others' strengths and listen without letting ego lead the conversation. Remember, the most respected people are those who uplift others and value every voice regardless of position. When you embody humility and avoid arrogance, you not only gain the trust and respect of those around you, but create an environment where real growth, understanding, and collaboration can thrive. Thank you for watching all the way through. If this video resonated with you, leave a comment saying, "Trust matters," to share your commitment to better connections. Don't miss out. There's more valuable content coming soon. 15. Lack of self-criticism. A lack of self-criticism is a clear indicator of an unwillingness to grow or improve. People who consistently refuse to admit their mistakes or shortcomings and who are quick to shift the blame onto others are caught in a cycle of denial that hinders their personal and professional development. This behavior not only frustrates those around them, but also stifles their own progress, trapping them in a loop of stagnation. Such behavior breeds tension and demoralizes the group, making it difficult to move forward or learn from past missteps. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone." Yet those who lack self-criticism avoid this principle, missing out on valuable lessons and growth opportunities. This lack of self-critique is also evident when someone resists constructive feedback. Rather than taking suggestions for improvement in stride, they become defensive, refusing to entertain the idea that they could be wrong. Have you ever known someone who always had a justification for their actions, no matter how clear it was that they were in the wrong? Such people demonstrate an inability to reflect on their actions, which can erode trust and make relationships feel one-sided. When feedback is dismissed instead of considered, it signals that their ego stands in the way of progress. How can you build a partnership, personal or professional, with someone who can't look inward and make changes for the better? Over time, this inability to self-reflect leads to stagnation. No one wants to work or socialize with someone who never acknowledges their faults or shows a willingness to improve. This reluctance to accept feedback or admit mistakes also fosters a distorted self-view, where the individual believes they are blameless and any problem must stem from external sources. This ego-driven perspective can alienate others, as it demonstrates a lack of empathy and accountability. Consider a leader who never admits fault, even when decisions fail and outcomes suffer. The team under such leadership faces frustration and a lack of direction because their leader refuses to learn from mistakes or adjust strategies. Seneca's wisdom speaks to this. Every man prefers belief to the exercise of judgment, and so the self-assured individual clings to their narrative, no matter the cost. For leaders, a refusal to engage in self-criticism can have catastrophic consequences. If a leader consistently overlooks their own errors, they lead their team down paths riddled with avoidable failures. The result is not just a demoralized workforce, but a limit on their own potential for long-term success. People are drawn to leaders who admit their flaws and learn from them. It shows strength, not weakness. When a leader models humility and growth, the entire team benefits from a culture of trust and improvement. Think about how much more effective a workplace could be if everyone, especially those at the top, embraced the mindset of learning from mistakes rather than denying them. Addressing this behavior in others requires patience and clarity. Helping someone develop a sense of self-awareness means presenting their mistakes in a constructive way and encouraging them to reflect. Direct yet supportive feedback can nudge them toward recognizing the value in self-assessment. However, it's essential to acknowledge that some individuals may never change, clinging instead to their defensive habits. If you find yourself continuously frustrated by someone who won't accept responsibility, it might be time to reconsider your involvement with them. Are they worth the emotional energy, or is their unwillingness to grow holding you back as well? This is where your own boundaries come into play. Remember, relationships, whether in work or personal life, thrive on honesty, accountability, and the willingness to evolve. Surround yourself with those who demonstrate a capacity for self-reflection and who embrace feedback as a tool for growth. And more importantly, strive to embody that mindset yourself. True strength lies not in pretending you are infallible, but in acknowledging where you can do better and working to make that change. As we wrap up these 15 attitudes, it's clear that our lives are deeply connected with those around us, making it essential to recognize and act on these behaviors. But here's the real question. What will you do with this insight? Knowing is just the beginning. Applying it is where the real growth happens. Take an honest look at the people in your life and consider who truly deserves your trust and respect. Remember, you're not obligated to keep those close who harm your well-being, even if their actions seem minor at first glance. Are you ready to make those changes? Reflect on it, and start taking steps that protect your emotional and mental health. If you're committed to learning how to strengthen your relationships and enrich your life, be sure to subscribe to Stoic In Your Life and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on valuable content. Let's keep exploring how to build a more fulfilling life, surrounded by those who truly uplift us. Share your thoughts in the comments. What changes will you make after watching this? See you in the next video.